Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pre-lunch session, so it's difficult to moderate and difficult to uh, complete the session. But yes, let us have a fruitful discussion because we are having a very good panel here, right from the banking to NBFC and from the we can say that fintech startups. So the topic here is about the cyber security, how to mitigate it, and what are the risks which is poses to the NBFC segment. Since we are having a small finance banker also will have a view on how cyber security is panning up in the banking industry, especially in the small finance bank. If we look at the cyber security part, banking as well as NBFC has gone beyond. Earlier, we used to do brick and mortar type of lending where data is at one place. Now, what happened with the technology coming up, lot of integrations are happening. With that, our data is exposed to the internal as well as external entities where we need to protect our data. We need to have a control on our data so that it will not be going to the hands of the person who is going to misuse it. So the major part is that cybersecurity is gaining importance. Accordingly, RBI has also come equivalent guideline for the NBFCs, where in 2017 they have really clearly jot down that there must be a IT security, IT governance policy for the NBFCs also. In that, they have especially mentioned there must be a confidentiality, availability, integrity, as well as rather we can say that real-time availability of the data to everyone. Accordingly, lot of companies, right from the NBFC, HFCs, AFCs and all, build their IT security policies. And accordingly, the risks are managed. But yes, we know that during the COVID, with lot of integration, lot of ITs coming, there are a lot of risks which are coming to the NBFC sector in the form of information security. So to start with, let us have a view of our esteemed panelists, what type of really risk they are foreseeing in the IT security or cyber security part. So to start with, I will start with Sibi on that. What is his view on that? What type of security threats they are getting in a SFB segment? Sibi.
Hi all. Thank you, Rishi. If you ask me what describes the technological landscape, current technological landscape, I can borrow from one of the most famous one-liner. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. Best of times because technology has taken us to a place where we have never imagined before. On the other side, even now when the artificial intelligence is gaining momentum, the tech experts are divided on how to control that, how to stop that. And now you know that India has already come across when artificial intelligence has claimed its first victim and a cyber crime using artificial intelligence, AI, has been already reported. In this particular context, what is it that banks and NBFCs, financial sector in particular, should build? The framework, how should they build? And for me, there are three pillars that form basic foundation for that structure or the architecture. Pillar 1, people. Pillar 2, people. And pillar 3, people. I'm not talking about the tech experts of information security, but the employees that the organization has, the other type of people, the external people that organization deals with. I mean, in a game of chess, pawns are the least valuable pieces, but pawns form, the battery of pawns form the best defensive line in a chess game when you are playing it. Likewise, the the battery of people in an organization and outside the organization which it deals forms the basic defense line for an organization in cyber security. And it is not just, it's supported by real statistics. Malware is delivered 90%, 92% through emails. And technology experts, they always, 75% of the technology experts are of the view that social engineering is the basic threat for the cyber security. Now, seeing that the people's exposure to the social media, people's exposure to the outside is a basic threat. What can an organization do to mitigate this? There are two steps to contain this. The first step is cyber literacy. When I say cyber literacy, everyone in the organization and every person the organization is dealing with should be aware of what cyber threats are, cyber risks are. Now, even in my opinion, it should start from the governmental level or the national policy level when a kid starts learning from the schools. Because now kids they are exposed to internet, they are exposed to apps, all those technology, they are exposed to so much of technology. Now, giving awareness to the people in the organization, there are, that's through communication, through mailers. Beyond that, it can be through learning modules, even it can be through trainings. So the first step is technology, cyber literacy. The second step is cyber discipline. How does cyber discipline is ensured in the, how is cyber discipline is ensured in the organization is a critical part the risk team and the information security team has to grapple with. Every person has to ensure that their passwords are bulletproof. Now there are more methods that are available, like testing. Through phishing testing and many other testings, organization can ensure that the employees are always up to date in cyber literacy. Even beyond that, even enhanced authentication, adaptive authentication, all these pieces help in ensuring that employees are always aware of what is there in the cyber field, cyber security threats, cyber security risks. To sum up, while people are the points in which the security threat starts, we need to make them aware and ensure that they keep abreast of all the cyber security threats every time. Okay.
You have well said the context about that we must have a awareness in the company as well as external world. Kunal, in the continuation with that, what type of threat your company are in a NBFC segment you are feeling is coming? And second part, one more question I want to ask is like how you are feeling that this type of reporting of these incidences, how it is maturing and what needs to be done on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Elets team. Thank you, Rishi. Thank you for having me here. I would just like to give a claim that the comments that I will make over here are my personal comments and not the views of my company. While preparing for this particular event, I came across an article. I would just like to point out to what Sibi just said. What are the challenge when it comes to cyber resilience? And this was very relevant when it comes to our organization or any other organization. And I hope some of my colleagues over here might resonate to these facts. I would say that the challenges that are pertaining to cyber security are point number one. We don't often know what are the assets that we are trying to protect. So, when it comes to protection, you should know what are you trying to protect. Here, people are not even aware, what kind of data classifications are there, what is PII information, what is SPII information, how do you want to store Aadhaar, how do you want to store, some of the personally identifiable information of the customers. So, firstly, there has to be an awareness on, what are the kind of assets that we have from an information security perspective, and then how do we want to protect them. Second is, how and where, these breaches could happen. Now, an interesting fact is, the breaches that typically happen are either through Trojans, through ransomware, or basically, some situations where people are impersonating, some of the management team. Interestingly, I was in a management meeting a few, weeks back, and I got a message when my MD and CEO was sitting right in front of me, that he's asking me to basically clear an application proposal, and he wants me to click on that proposal document immediately, and I was sitting right in front of him. So and the email that came was so close to his official email ID, and things like that. But then we saw also a threat message which was on top of that email, which I guess was created by our own IT infrastructure or IT security team, immediately recognizing that the domain from which this email has come is not the right domain. So what I'm trying to say is that, firstly, you need to know what kind of data that you are storing with you, what kind of protections you need to provide to what level of data. You cannot solve for the ocean. So you have to basically pick and choose your battles till what level you want to, run. I am a CRO. For me, risk and reward and risk mitigation balance has to be very, very important. We cannot solve for those risks on which, while solving for it, the cost is so high that even if, the probability of risk occurrence is very, very low. So you have to pick and choose your battle. One interesting data point that I would want to, put forward is, India has a, computer emergency response team, which is called as CERTIN, created by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which says that the second most targeted industry for ransomware attack is the financial services industry. And one more fact which is mentioned in their own report, in 2022, these attacks had increased by 53% year on year. The second interesting fact over there is, and I'm reading I'm quoting the report over here, which is a certain report. On an average, the restoration from the time of attack is a whopping 10 days. Here, a gentleman was presenting, a chat GPT solution, which is real time. Now, understand, when there is an attack, the restoration time is 10 days. And, for smaller network and infrastructure, the restoration time can be basically from 3 days to 1 day. So, imagine if your size is big, the restoration time is also big. So, this is a report which is published by CERTIN, and we can see, what are the kind of various challenges and, environmental risk which is containing to information and cyber security when the data is provided in abundance, which is there with us. So, it is therefore very, very important for us to also control it. Now, to answer the second part of, what Rishi had said, how do we manage, these incidents which, comes on, if we encounter any such incident. So I would say we have three kinds of, teams which are there for us in terms of managing this. First and the foremost thing is, you need to have a CISO function, which is a Chief Information Security Officer. This particular function has to basically own and control the entire, the incident response management process. When I say own and control, they cannot deliver on their own. So do not misunderstand that, delivery is also on them. Delivery will always be with the first line. But they have to design the framework in such a way that, these incidents are basically controlled. Second important thing is when the incident itself will happen. So you need to have the, a cyber incident response management team, which could be a team which is dedicatedly on cyber. But even if, you as a company, when we as CROs, we run our companies, we also have, BCP teams. So this is, we have a incident response team for managing other risks. Similarly, for cyber, we have a dedicated, or we should have a dedicated cyber incident response team who should help us in basically fighting against these incidents when they happen. How do you detect? How do you proactively tell people that these are the incidents? So, what Sibi said, making people aware of what is an incident. How do you respond to an incident? How do you manage, or restore your data back? At what level you want to basically fight with the incident, and what level you want to basically, say that, okay, this is a containment plan and I don't want to basically, fight for it. I would want to restore the data back. So, therefore, the cyber information incident response team, in conjunction with the CISO, should be basically responsible to contain, the cyber security incident management.
Kunal, right, you have correctly emphasized we must know how much risk we are carrying and where is the risk. And then only I can manage my risk. It can be managed through different way. Yes, rightly mentioned about the response, in the sense when any threats are coming, how to manage that threat. Now, one point has come, like our friend Nimesh is from phygital world, where physical as well as digital combination is doing lending on that platform. So, Nimesh, question to you is like, if suppose any threat is coming to the company, and how it can be transparently managed with the customer as well as internal employees, as well as to the regulator, to the environment, how transparent we can do and how transparently we can manage these threats.
Thanks, Rishi. I would just like to breach upon a couple of points before jumping on to that answer. Is that two important things which remain unnoticed when we talk about cyber attacks is third-party outsourcing risk. That is something which is very, very important. All of us try to protect the landscape in which we are operating. But in today's collaborative world, the landscape has become so huge because of the collaboration that we do with outsourcing partners, that it's very important to understand their IT systems and understand that what are the points of leakages, not only through our IT systems, but through their IT systems also, which could lead to a huge loss to the financial organization. So that's something which is also very, very important. And secondly, old age NBFCs generally operate on legacy systems. It's very important to keep a constant check on the systems that you are using. Being abreast of whether these systems are relevant today in terms of securing and responding to cyber attacks or not is something which is very, very important and cannot be ignored. So I think NBFCs need to put in a lot of stress in these two important factors, because it's not, nowadays it's not only relevant of how strong your systems are, but it's also very important and relevant of how strong systems of your partners are. Otherwise, that could lead to huge problems. In terms of how do you respond when your NBFC goes through a cyber attack, the first and the foremost important thing is communicate very transparently. Transparent communication is the key to bring in trust, confidence of stakeholders and regulators. If that's not done in the right manner, then it could lead to a lot of problems. So there should be a very prompt communication, which is very important. It should be immediate, as soon as it happens. It should be very clear and transparent. There should not be any technical jargons which should be used. It should be understandable to common people as to what has happened. If there is a cyber security breach that has happened, then it's very important to communicate to the customers, to your own customers, of what is the extent of that breach. It's very important to communicate very clearly to them that what information of theirs could be used by scamsters. This kind of transparent communication is very, very important. You should first and foremost appoint a spokesperson who should be the only person responding to various queries of stakeholders and customers. If that is not done in the right manner, then it could be all over the place. Get in touch with cybersecurity experts to find solutions of the ransomware attack and the cybersecurity breach that has happened. That is also very important. Get in touch with the regulator. Inform them about what has happened. Tell your customers, stakeholders about the repudiation techniques that you are using in terms of recovering data, in terms of ensuring that this kind of cyber attack does not happen to your systems again. All these things are very, very important in terms of building the trust factor with your customers and stakeholders to ensure that the positive reputation that the company has built over a period of time remains intact. If that is not done in today's world in the right manner, then it could lead to a lot of problems. So yeah, all those things are very important, Rishi, as far as I think in terms of clearly communicating to stakeholders, customers in the right manner, using law enforcement agencies to find out who's doing this kind of attacks, using cybersecurity experts to ensure and making your system stronger, clearly communicating to your own employees also in terms of what kind of cybersecurity breach has happened, so that all employees are also on the same page and the communication is singular and not multifocal in terms of what has happened to the cybersecurity threat that has originated in the organization. I think these are key important things. If these are managed well, then you obviously cannot live without a cybersecurity attack in today's world. But the response has to be right, quick, and very clear to avoid any reputation loss.
Yeah, one small data point over here as well, since it's, I have I think a specific focus on information and cyber security, and therefore I want to call out one small point. This is as per the IBM security cost of data breach report. About a couple of years back, this report was published. It says that this is to be found that it takes 233 days to identify fully identify information and cyber security related high cost data breach which has happened in the banking and financial sector. This is on an average, and which this 233 days to just translate is actually about 8 months. What this does is obviously it gives sufficient time to the hackers who have basically done the hacking on your system to very, very calmly, composedly steal all your data, or possibly wherever they can reach. So you can imagine how information and cyber security identification is very important, very, very sensitive to, it is very, very sensitive to keep an awareness program around it.
Thank you, Nimesh and Kunal. Nimesh, you have rightly pointed out 2-3 things that is very, very important. One is that risk is not with us only. Since we are exposed, there are third party. That's how RBI has recently come about the third party vendor risk management. Very rightly. And second thing is that how transparent we are in communication with our customer. Maybe internal customer or external customer, that is most important thing that has brought down. And Kunal, yes, rightly said, identifying the threat is a major point. We are not able to understand whether threat has entered in our system or not till the time we are really incurring the losses. That is the one point, very important point. But what we understand is that most of the frauds or cyber security threats which are coming because of our internal employees. Because our internal employees, in the sense, there may be mistake or irresponsibility from our internal employee itself. They might not be aware. They might not be aware that whether I should open this mail, whether I should read this one. So Sibi, this poses one question, comes in my mind to ask you, how you think that these internal employees are really responsible for the threats which are coming to the NBFCs as well as banking sector, and how it can be mitigated?
As I have mentioned in the first session, it's the people or the employees within the organization and the people that the vendors are employing. I mean, it's not internal employees alone. It's the external employees whom the vendors are employing. These are the most vulnerable areas because the attacker can come mainly through, because more than 70% of the attacks happen through people. So these are the most critical areas that an organization has to address. So how do we do is, as I said, the awareness has to be created. Then as a second step, I mean, we have to have constant testing of their awareness. And then we can also have incentives and disincentives for proper behavior, cyber behavior. So these are the critical areas that one has to, an organization has to put in place to ensure that the attacks, the cyber risk is not emanating through the employees.
Rightly put. Yeah.
Again,
You
an
want to add?
interesting
Yeah.
data point. According to Verizon, and I'm pulling out only reputed names. According to Verizon data breach report of 2023, human errors contribute to about 74% of the data breaches globally. And the two key motives for these data breaches, 61% of the motives have been identified to be financially, creating a disruption, and 39% has been related to espionage. So you can see the importance of data breach, and what is the kind of motive behind it.
Yeah, to add to what Kunal has, substantiated by the statistics, there are a lot of processes and systems in the organization, like from starting from the password to the current level of zero trust framework. There are a lot of systems in the organization to ensure that the breach does not happen through employees, but still, as I said, if there is a vulnerable point, that can happen. So that's why this awareness, it's consistent and frequent testing is very important in the organization.
Yeah, rightly said, Sibi, because you started with the point that yes, risk can be managed through people only. So only responsibility is from the people. Yes, we are really using the system, but the system should be managed well, though, so that it cannot ride on us. If I summarize this conversation in 3-4 points, one is that we are exposed, we know. We are exposed to the external world as well as internal data world. But yes, putting the right system, process, people in place can manage cybersecurity well. It can be managed only. It cannot be controlled or avoided. That needs to be very clear to everyone. Now, we are open for any question. If from audience any question is there for our panelists, we can take that question. Please.
Good afternoon. Just a small question to Mr. Kunal, who gave interesting statistics on how many days it takes to even find out the data breach and all that. There is a data bill which has been submitted to the Parliament very recently. It was deferred for more than 2 to 3 years' time. In addition to the data bill which is being submitted, there is also a sandbox program given by RBI, and pilot study is going on. But the moderator started telling these securitizations are by the people, for the people, and to the people. But everywhere there is a disruption. Do you think this data bill and this sandbox from RBI and all could mitigate all these troubles and make a customer at least going scot-free?
I would, have easily said yes to your answer, but only one word in your statement now has to make me give you an elaborated answer, and that word is all the risk. So it even the PDPR or BDPR equivalent bill, which is has been under draft, like you rightly said, for the couple of years. That bill is under continuous debate. Why? Because there is a continuous assessment of what is the right data points which have to come under protection. The point which I started, in the first instance itself. What to protect? Firstly, that has to be classified. So far, the Indian government basically has given a very, very strong, guidelines to protect the Aadhaar by putting a Aadhaar vault. But what about some of the other data points like, PAN or mobile numbers, which are now connected to various databases? So to come to a point, where I say that, or whether all these risks can be mitigated through those bills, I would say no, because this is an evolving world. As we bring out these regulations, the risks are also evolving. But at the same time, what these guidelines do is they give you a path in terms of thinking about creating a framework in terms of putting 3 pillars in your organization. Pillar number 1, that information and cyber security is risk is here. You cannot ignore it. You cannot say that what is the outcome if I put my capital into information and cyber security. There is no outcome. You're protecting the data. That is your responsibility. The customer is giving you data. The second thing that it will bring is that people have to be made aware of what all are the various data points that you are holding with you, but you may not be sensitive towards, understanding the implication of the leakage of those data points. And the third thing that it will bring onto the picture will be, the controls which are being built into the organization at various touch points, which will tell you that, okay, today at least these ABCD different kind of risks can be controlled. The point, if you recall, I made earlier that in a meeting I was sitting and, there was a breach which I could see. But at the same time, in that email, there was a note, there was a message also there by our IT team that, this is not coming from a safe domain. Do you want to store it or do you want to keep it, move it into a junk folder? So, what is it? Which means there is a information cyber security, risk which was identified, but it was not, and, if I would have clicked, I would have gone to that particular link. So, did I mitigate it? Did I delete it? No, we have not deleted it. Ideally, I would say if we delete it, it is a mitigation. But, like I said, it is an evolving word. It, like what Rishi also concluded, it is here to stay. They will always try to be one step ahead of you. And, you have to keep on learning and building things around it. And to complement to what Sibi said, keep this awareness program there to all your employees, to the third parties, so that, you are anywhere. The biggest point in risk management is risk identification. I strongly believe, being 22 years in risk management, that, if you are able to identify a risk, you have solved for at least 60% of the problem. The mitigation, the measurement, and the managing of risk is all once you identify the risk. So the importance will be through all these guidelines and everything, that at least there will be a focus on identification of risk.
Thank you, sir. There is one more small question. These DigiLockers planned during this budget.
Sorry?
DigiLockers,
Yeah.
which has been planned during this budget to locate sensitive data outside our shores. Is that working, or they have started working, or it is a very infant stage in our country?
So for the financial services industry, like, one of our previous presenter also said, we have a very, very strong and a clear guidelines that, all our data should not be stored outside of India. So, we also try, we actually make it purposefully. We do not engage with service providers where we have, data point, our own data or the data that they are pulling on our behalf, which is stored outside of India. So I would say that, DigiLocker is again an enabler over there, which is only trying to show you a path that, in India also, there is strong data protected infrastructure which is there. Please use that. Please try and trust on that particular thing. And I think that is where, I would want to, rest this particular point, that as financial services industry, we try and, store all our data in India. And even if, the government is trying to enable with these DigiLockers and some of these Aadhaar vaults kind of initiative, we should just focus towards, trusting them and basically enabling them and supporting them in implementation of that.
And to add to Kunal, is like it works on operational, because data security and all is operational risk type of thing, where we really work on the frequency and severity, how much frequent the attacks are and how much severe the attacks are. So that needs to be very clearly defined to mitigate that risk. We cannot clearly mitigate every risk, but yes, it can be mitigated through a certain extent where we can really top up the fraudster or top up the attackers. So that must be the endeavor. So with that, if any question is not there, I will not come in between your lunch and this session. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you all panelists for your insightful session for Elets. Thank you very much.